The first time Bethany saw the eyes, she thought they were fireflies. Two faint, flickering lights, hovering just beyond the tree line, barely visible through the thick Michigan night. But fireflies don't stare, fireflies don't follow, and fireflies don't blink in unison, like a predator sizing up its prey. She had moved to Sears, Michigan, for peace, a quiet life, a chance to rebuild after the chaos of her divorce. Alaska had been too cold, too remote, too full of memories she wanted to leave behind. The realtor had promised her this little house on the edge of the woods would be perfect, a cozy retreat surrounded by nature. But now, as she stood on her porch in the humid July night, staring into the black abyss of the forest, she felt anything but at peace. The woods were alive with sound, the chirp of crickets, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, the occasional hoot of an owl. But beneath it all, there was something else, a silence that moved, a stillness that crept closer. When she wasn't looking, she could feel it, even if she couldn't see it, the way the air seemed to thicken, the way her skin prickled, as if she were being watched. She shook her head and laughed nervously, retreating inside. "Get a grip, Bethany," she muttered, locking the door behind her. "It's just your imagination." But it wasn't. The first week passed uneventfully, though the unease lingered. She told herself it was just the adjustment to a new place, the unfamiliar sounds of the Michigan woods. But then the noises started. At first it was just the occasional snap of a branch outside her window, the kind of thing you could blame on a deer or a raccoon. But soon it became more deliberate. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, circling the house in the dead of night. One evening, as she sat on the couch with a glass of wine, she heard a low growl. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it sent a shiver down her spine. She froze, her heart pounding, straining to hear over the hum of the refrigerator. The growl came again, louder this time, and closer. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it out the window. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but trees and shadows. But then she saw them, the eyes, yellow, glowing, and unblinking, staring back at her from the edge of the woods. They were too high off the ground to belong to a coyote, too steady to be a trick of the light. She gasped, stumbling back from the window, her phone slipping from her hand and clattering to the floor. When she looked again, the eyes were gone. The next morning she found the tracks. They were massive, far too large to belong to any dog. The prints were strange, almost human-like, but with claws that had gouged deep into the earth. She took a photo with her phone, her hands trembling, and sent it to a local wildlife expert she found online. His reply came quickly. "I don't know what made those tracks, but it's not anything I've ever seen before. Be careful." That night, the growling returned, louder and more insistent. It circled the house, moving from window to window, as if whatever was out there was testing her. She locked all the doors and windows, her heart racing as she sat in the living room with every light on. The sound of claws scraping against the siding made her stomach churn. She thought she saw movement in the shadows, a hulking shape that disappeared as quickly as it appeared. And then came the knocking. It was soft at first, almost polite, as if someone were gently rapping on the front door. But it quickly grew louder, more forceful, until it was a pounding that shook the walls. Bethany grabbed the baseball bat she kept by the couch and crept toward the door, her hands slick with sweat. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling. The pounding stopped. For a moment, there was silence. And then, from the other side of the door, a voice, low, guttural, and inhuman. It spoke her name. "Bethany!" She screamed, stumbling back and dropping the bat. The voice laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to vibrate through her bones. She ran to the bedroom, locking the door behind her and grabbing her phone to call the police. But when she looked out the window, she saw it. The creature was standing in the yard, illuminated by the pale light of the moon. It was massive, easily 7 feet tall, with the body of a man and the head of a wolf. Its fur was black as midnight, its eyes glowing yellow, and its teeth glinted like knives in the darkness. It stared up at her, its lips curling into a snarl, and then it did something that made her blood run cold. It smiled. The police arrived 20 minutes later, but by then, the creature was gone. Bethany met them at the door, her face pale and her hands trembling. "It was here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was right here." The officers exchanged skeptical glances but humored her, shining their flashlights around the yard. They found nothing. No tracks. No claw marks. No sign of the creature she had described. "Ma'am," one of them said gently, "are you sure it wasn't just a bear? They can stand on their hind legs and—" "It wasn't a bear," Bethany snapped, her voice cracking. "It spoke to me. It said my name." The officer hesitated, his expression shifting from skepticism to unease. "We'll file a report," he said finally, "but there's not much we can do without evidence. Just keep your doors locked and call us if anything else happens." As the police car pulled away, Bethany stood on the porch, staring out at the woods. The night was silent now, but it was the kind of silence that felt alive, like the forest was holding its breath. She knew the Dogman was still out there, watching, waiting, and then, just as she turned to go inside, she heard it again, the growl, low and guttural, coming from the shadows at the edge of the yard. Her blood turned to ice as she realized the truth. The Dogman wasn't gone. It was just getting started.